Good on that. Because I think what we really want to do is kind of highlight some of the higher level projects that we're working on this year. And to make sure you guys know what kind of our overall objectives are going into the year.
There we go.
Great. So these are kind of three of our overall goals this year, which is we're really focusing on regenerative and the sustainability goals, which we're going to talk about in a moment. We're really focusing on peer-to-peer and knowledge sharing, more opportunities to teach and learn, and this call is an example of that. And then really focusing on that hyper-local to hyper-global, in realizing that for us to do some of these big worldwide projects, we all need to be building these communities at home and doing these things at home, because that's what creates these kind of pockets of activity that then when we have these larger calls to action, can really coalesce into a global movement.
So the first topic that Christopher just started for us, and he'll tell us a little bit more, is that sustainability and regeneration.
So some of you know, especially those of you who came out with us to fly in October, but this past June, Burning Man put out a 2030 sustainability roadmap, which is a pretty audacious goal. And so we're just going to talk about the three high level pieces of that goal. And so also there's kind of this question of like, why are we even speaking about this? And for those of you who have gotten to actually read the real principles, like the descriptions of principles around Leave No Trace, if you see at the very bottom, it says we clean up after ourselves and endeavor whenever possible to leave such places in a better state than we found them. And so that's a big part of kind of where the sustainability roadmap comes from. As we said, three main goals, which is one is no matter out of place. And so really looking at what our non-sustainable waste streams are from Burning Man, the event, as well as all of our operations. Two, which is be regenerative, you know, moving from that extractive economy into the sustainable economy, into that regenerative economy. And so how can we as a Burning Man community be prototyping solutions that are net positive for the whole planet? And three, which is also a pretty crazy goal, which is being carbon negative. And so a lot of that goes into us looking at what our carbon footprint is overall through this event, and then not only mitigating that through the choices we make, but then using the global community as well as innovative places like Fly Ranch to actually sequester carbon down into the soil. So if you think about it, why do we even care about this? These are some equivalencies. In 2007, BlackRock Solar estimated that Burning Man does about 100K tons of carbon into the air. And so that's a lot. That's like 250,000 barrels of oil being consumed. It's almost 12,000 homes using energy for an entire year. And so when we start to look at our impact there for our event, it kind of makes sense why we want to lean into making this big change. So then what are the circles of influence that we're playing at? You know, Burning Man owns properties and offices in California as well as Northern Nevada. We have Fly Ranch, we have Black Rock City, and we have the global network. And there's different goals and markers we can have at each of those. And so in Black Rock City, these are just some of the things that are being looked at, which is alternative energy, offsets, how we view travel, fuel use, whether there could be certain incentives for people who are on clean energy versus fuel. And then at Fly Ranch in October, some of us came together and worked on some design sprints. And so this is just an image of one of the design sprints, kind of looking at how we could imagine mobile infrastructure and an infrastructure trust work at Black Rock City and then into the world. That's fine, Molly. I'm not really going to talk much about Fly because Zach is going to be speaking after me, but Fly obviously is a really amazing land project we have about 12 miles away from the site. And then there's this Laggy Challenge, which is coming up, which is really exciting and a chance for us to lean into some of these goals. Here's another image, kind of how we're thinking about the ecosystem of Northern Nevada. And then to me, I think one of the most interesting things is that Burning Man Global Network. And so we have 90 regional events, over 150 regional communities, 41 BWB chapters and working groups, town halls, leadership gatherings. We have BlackRock Labs. And so it's really interesting, I think, as we develop these ideas and these goals, how can we launch that out into the world? And there you can see our group from Fly in October. And these are some more snapshots of some of the ideas that we created. And so you can find all of those project proposals on the Burners Without Borders website. And that's a big goal for us, like I said, over the years to be leaning into this. And one of our big goals for our BWB Black Rock City camp is to try and become the first measured carbon negative camp at Burning Man over the next 3 years.
And the second point that we mentioned is our peer-to-peer, which is continuing this idea of networking the network. And so we've, over 2019 and into 2020, have started these convenings to bring the community together. And so one of those paths has been on Zoom with our, and this is just a bit of a chart to show what we've been up to with the BWB Worldwide call that we're on right now. We also have a quarterly call that's exclusively for our chapter and working group leads to come together and give and get mentorship and advice and feedback. And then we also have community conversations where we highlight local BWB project leaders who have done things really well and bring them on to share about what's been successful in their communities. And that's been a part of our succession planning to try to capture that wisdom from leaders as they grow and move into different places in their lives. And then in person last year, we were really excited to have our first larger convening at Fly Ranch with the BWB Spring Campout. And we had the October Fall Summit, which was a little bit more structured. And those have been the first two, outside of work weekends, the first two in-person touch points for our global community outside of Black Rock City. And so on Zoom, people are hearing stories from people just like us, from projects around the world. Like I said earlier, it's just seeing who's in the global room, co-learning and capturing wisdom, and building those relationships within our decentralized community. Our BWB Spring Campout was part work weekend, part unconference. All of our Fly experiences so far have and continue to be radically self-reliant, radically communal, and they're all about relationship building. Also, the first piece of infrastructure that was put on Fly Ranch is a banya, and self-care has been a really strong tenet of all of our convenings that we've had at Fly Ranch, which is pretty exciting. And our fall summit was more formal, like I said, with hands-on workshops. We had the focus on sustainability, the images that we were just looking at. It was a mix of physical and mental. And our goal with the fall summit is turning out individuals who are ready for action and leadership. And then we have one more project that we want to share about, which is the feast, which started, Christopher, do you want to tell us about how it started?
Sure, yeah. Last summer, we were connected with this amazing chef from the Bay Area named Jesse Bloom. And Jesse had a dream of making a 10,000 person dinner on Playa. And so we ended up having conversations with him. We all kind of settled on the idea that 10,000 might be a little much to do as a launch project. And we narrowed that down to 1,000 people. And so we had a really amazing event on Playa where we fed over 1,000 people. And it was a culturally based meal, and it brought together a bunch of different theme camps, different performers, different speakers around impact. And it was really about imagining a world without hunger. And so we had a really amazing experience on Playa this year, and we've been thinking about how could we bring this to the world.
And so what we've kind of been growing, and we're going to give you all the link to read all about this project on our website, but it's a Burning Man inspired event on the US-Mexico border, bringing people together to share a meal at the same table. And so the purpose of this project is really to be about dialogue and about fostering conversation and fostering relationships and imagining our global community. And so as you, in this photo, this is just to give everyone an idea because it's kind of a hard concept to wrap your head around. So these are two of the possible layouts, with the dotted line being the border fence. And then these are in the bottom corner, just some photos of Friendship Park, of a previous art installation, and the fence in Tijuana, so that folks can have an idea of what that might look like.
And just to one kind of added in there is, you know, if you can really imagine it, the idea is to possibly get an art car on either side, link the sound system, have chefs on either side cooking food, having art projects, and really, you know, like we even imagine maybe we could have a mural on either side of the wall that each side is completing, that we can bring off together, that's complete. And so it's really a cultural experiment, and kind of theatrical art experience of what it means for neighbors to come together and share a meal and share a celebration, which are, you know, some of the most basic tenets of being human, when we have something very real like a border or a wall in between us.
Wow.
And so where are we now? Obviously, this is a really big idea. And so we've since August been talking about and thinking about what we would need to learn in order to know if this is at all possible. And so far we have completed a feasibility trip a couple of weeks ago, where a very small team went and drove and looked at locations and met with potential partners and contacts. And it was a really positive trip with really positive feedback from people on both sides of the border, and everyone really resonated with the idea and the language and the opportunity to do something joyful and creative that brings people together in this space. And we were able to do an initial activation with the San Diego Burners Without Borders community, which was also really positive. And we're continuing to evolve the concept to really make sure that this project is co-creative and respectful and additive for the communities that we're partnering with. So we're doing a lot of listening, having a lot of conversations. And then the biggest kind of hurdle is, the biggest kind of hurdle is permitting. And so we've been doing a lot of research about that and are continuing to do due diligence about the right partnerships to strengthen this project. And the other thing that we're doing right now is filling a few more key volunteer roles so that we can start to engage the larger volunteer community and grow a little bit of bandwidth to do that. And so what's next? We're continuing to do that research and to connect with possible collaborators. We're speaking with NGOs and representatives from the UN, lawyers, activists, and subject matter experts. We're taking a lot of care to be in touch with a lot of folks who live in Mexico and make sure that we're doing this mindfully, because we know that there's a lot of room to, we know that we need to do a great job. And we'll need a lot of volunteer support to make this happen. So the first iteration is a mini feast that is going to be with just a few hundred people. And that's slated for June or July of 2020. And we're looking at doing that in Tijuana at Friendship Park. We're going to share out this slide, and you can visit our website to read more about this and about Jesse Bloom and about the other collaborators in this project. Do you want to add anything else, Christopher, on this one?
No, I think you did a great job, Molly. It's just, I would say, check out the link. I see a lot of people messaging that they're interested in being involved. I just dropped the link in the chat. And so there's a volunteer form there. And this is a very emergent project that is going to be really difficult, but could be really amazing.
And so wrapping it all up, what can we use help with Burners Without Borders? We can use these things. Moderators for BWB Worldwide Slack community, we're still building it out. It's something that we're growing to be useful for you, and we'd love your input and support in making that feel additive. We're also building out a document of all of the resources and toolkits that come through the Burners Without Borders community, and we would love to have your help with that. So we'll share this link as well, and if you have developed a resource or a toolkit that you want the greater BWB community to have access to, we'd love to work with you on that. We're also looking for volunteer writers to help us cover all of the projects and grants that are a part of the network. We would love to be able to create more content for them. And we'd love for you to let us know what resources and assistance you'd like to see more of from BWB, because we'd love to start to create that. And finally, if you're interested in joining us in our sustainability goals for 2020, we'd love to invite you to join the Sustainability and Regenerative Roadmap Working Group, and we have a Slack channel for you there too. So this is where you can get plugged in. We're only as strong as our members, and it's you. So we're so excited for 2020 with all of you. We're super excited for the future that's possible.